We learned in this last week of campaigning in what may be, who knows, the last US presidential election, of a certain evolution in the thinking of Republican candidates and or presidents on the subject of immigration. From this...
I've spoken of the shining city all my political life, but I don't know if I ever quite communicated what I saw when I said it. But in my mind, it was a tall, proud city built on rocks stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds living in harmony and peace. A city with free ports that hummed with commerce and creativity. And if there had to be city walls, the walls had doors, and the doors were open to anyone with the will and the heart to get here.
To this...
You paid America the high tribute of aspiring to live here, leaving behind familiar ways and places, and accepting a process that everyone knows is not easy. Our country, when you return, honored your efforts, and soon will be honored to call you citizen.
To this.
Right, and we're a dumping ground. We're like a garbage can for the world.
On which subject?
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road.
We learned of disappointing news for Melania Trump and Elon Musk. Come on, no need for that. We learned from Donald Trump's chief ideological homunculus, Stephen Miller, that Trump's Slovenian wife and South African cheerleader would shortly be compelled to pack their bags.
America is for Americans and Americans only.
Although we do still kind of suspect that Ms. Trump has already had one packed for some time, as she awaits the helicopter bearing the GRU extraction team, which will return her to Moscow in triumph. We did not learn quite what are the limitations of Mr. Miller's program of hardcore autarky, whether he would find himself eventually obliged to deport the former president, grandson of Germans and son of a Scot, or indeed himself not all that long descended from Belarusians. But we did learn something of the caliber of Americans for whom Stephen Miller wishes America to be preserved, including the warm-up comedian apparently entrusted with outreach to Latino communities.
You guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Bloviating real estate huckster Grant Cardone, a bloviating real estate huckster at a Trump event. Imagine.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kamala Harris is the least qualified candidate to ever run for any political office in American history.
Well, indeed, only Attorney General of California, a US Senator and Vice President of the United States, never even hosted her own game show. We also heard from Rudolph Giuliani, which is always a treat, as he took time out from his court-ordered garage sales, currently raising the $148 million he owes to the two Georgia election officials he slandered.
Now, I don't know. I'm not going to do conspiracy, and I'm not going to do conspiracy.
Though at least he turned up at the right venue. One for the Four Seasons heads there. See you all at the 4th anniversary fancy dress party next Thursday. And we were introduced to one David Rem, billed as a childhood friend of Donald Trump, who offered a measured, thoughtful critique of certain details of the Harris policy platform.
In fact, she is the devil, whoever screamed that out. She is the Antichrist.
And we learned that Rem was just warming up.
I just want to say this. The cross that I'm holding is the cross that my mother, Beatrice Rem, used to hold in the air when she prayed at night, every night, for Donald Trump and his family.
We learned from his crucifix-brandishing sermon that he also intends to run for mayor of New York City, an endeavor with which we, for one whimsical news review, wish him all the luck in the world, though he is flying in the face of the tradition generally associated with the office, i.e. become mayor first, lose marbles second. We learned all of the above from Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden, about which we learned that some of Trump's opponents perceived it as sort of a sequel to an event held at the same venue several decades back, and that among those perceivers was Minnesota Governor and Democratic nominee for Vice President Tim Walz.
There's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. And don't think that he doesn't know for 1 second exactly what they're doing there.
We learned, well, to be honest, we already knew this as we lead a full and exciting social life, that the event to which Walz was alluding was this.
The German-American Bund, organized as American citizens with American ideals and determined to protest ourselves, our homes, our wives and children against the slimy conspirators who would change this glorious republic into the inferno of a Bolshevikic paradise.
Tomorrow belongs to me.
Though we do need to correct the governor on a couple of points. One is that the other thing didn't happen in the mid-1930s, it happened in February 1939, when Madison Square Garden did host a full-dress, swastika-spangled Nazi rally organised by the German-American Bund and addressed by the leader thereof, German-American Third Reich enthusiast Fritz Julius Kuhn. Indeed. The other point on which we must correct the governor is that, venue aside, there is simply no similarity whatsoever between Fritz Kuhn's rally of 1939 and Donald Trump's rally of last week, as one was a ludicrous yet sinister gathering of a cult of swivel-eyed nativist weirdos headlined by a fulminating grifter and convicted fraud with dubious ties to hostile foreign powers, and the other was, etc., etc. And we learned that there is just nothing more reassuring than hearing a candidate for elected office feeling it necessary to clarify that his party are not, in fact, Nazis, and that he is not, in fact, Hitler.
Now we're called Nazis, and I'm called Hitler. I'm not Hitler.
It's all going to be fine. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Mullett.